Valentine's Day traditions around the world. So this article is coming to us from odysseysunlimited.com, and it's just a sort of brief look at how other countries, 30 other countries to be specific, how they celebrate Valentine's Day. And reading through this, I noticed that a lot of them are kind of the same. It's, chocolates and gifts and
So
rather
much chocolate.
yeah. What is it with chocolate? Like I've
I think
I've
it was
never had much of
orchestrated by like the chocolate industry.
yeah, right? It's like Hallmark and Nestle got together and they're like, how can we torpedo this thing? How can we make money off this? As it is, it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's like every country with predominantly white people seems to have the pretty much same thing with cards and chocolates and fucking. So, I mean, I'm not against it, but give me a bag of potato chips too. But I did try to come up with some of the more interesting practices, and I'm sure we're going to get into some of them. But another thing, and I want to draw everyone's attention to this before we get into some of the more wacky, is that I was reading at the bottom of these articles the comment section, and the comment section was filled with not. I know what you're thinking, Christy, but it wasn't
Never
those.
read the comment section.
Well, aside from I made $5,000 in an hour and a half at such and such.com, there was a lot of folks there that were saying, I'm from this place and I've never heard of this practice. I'm from Germany. We never do this. I'm from South Korea. We never do this. So I kind of wonder if some of these are just kind of maybe ancient traditions or if just recently fallen out of favor or something. But let's get into it. I'm going to throw it over to you guys, but I want to start off with my personal favorite, which was the Welsh tradition of carving an elaborate wooden spoon and giving it to your honey. So this year, instead of flowers, why not give the gift of cutlery? You'll be on their mind every time your lover has some Campbell's soup. Brought to you by Hallmark and Nestle.
Yeah,
Laura?
Hallmark and Nestle.
Oh, that's sweet. And if you're not into spoon carving, or if you're just not that talented or artistic, there's always Thailand, and they celebrate Valentine's Day by doing extreme sports such as skydiving or bungee jumping, including things like underwater weddings. So, if you're a little bit more on the adventurous side and a little bit less into the arts and crafts, dude, I'd hit Thailand's.
Better fit.
Yeah. Although I also like Argentina, where they just celebrate for a full week of cards and candy and gifts and romance. Like I can take a full week of that.
Yeah, and they like dress up the streets. I was looking at pictures of it, and it's like all dressed up. It kind of looks like a Christmas without snow. And I was like, hey, I'd be down for that. Christy, what did you find?
Yeah, well, we touched a little bit on sort of the ubiquity of chocolate everywhere, and I guess that's probably because of the like pseudoscience bullshit around chocolate being an aphrodisiac. I guess I'll say to the audience, in case you were not aware, eating chocolate is not going to make you horny, unless it does, which is great. If you feel horny, then you are horny, and I guess that's what counts. But there's nothing magical about the chemical compounds within the product. But I really thought it was fascinating that the nation of Ghana, which is one of the world's like leading chocolate manufacturers, has just full on embraced it. They don't even necessarily have like a Valentine's Day type tradition. They just have February 14th as like the big chocolate day because they have so much income around all of that. But I was also really fascinated to look at how a number of different countries try to grapple with the idea of like Valentines for children. My parents always thought that it was kind of weird that like a bunch of kindergartners would be expected to give like little cards to their classmates when this was meant to be like a romantic or sexual sort of holiday. And it seems that is sort of a question kind of everywhere, because the different ways that different countries try to address that or try to make it a family holiday while also wanting it to be something that is about like adult romantic love I just found really, really interesting. That was to me kind of the highlight of the article.
So
Do you
I
guys do
invent.
that down in the States? Do you do the because I'm Canadian. I'm curious now that you brought it up. Do you do the like passing around little Valentines in school where everybody's
Oh
got an
yeah,
envelope
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the whole
it's like
ordeal.
that
yep.
Simpsons episode where Ralph Wiggum he's like, "You choo
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 choose
choose.
me."
Yeah,
And
that's a
you
real
get the
thing.
little
We do that.
cards with the little
Everybody
That's
gets
messages
awesome.
on
one.
them. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting what Christy brings up because Valentine's Day growing up for me, my mom would always leave us in the morning at the table. She'd set the table and like little plates and stuff like that with a little breakfast treat like a Danish or something or a donut. And then she would give us each a little bit of candy and a little toy, right? And everything was all done in pink and hearts and the candy was normally like those little heart candies with the words on them. But
Mhm.
it's interesting. So she like even outside of the school system she incorporated Valentine's Day as a like sort of child friendly show my love to my children kind of way. And then I passed that on to my children the first few years. And we haven't done it in a long time, but um actually even as I say that, I take that back. Every year though, we do buy them one of those little dollar heart-shaped boxes that has like 3 or 4 pieces of chocolate in it. Every year we get each of our kids one of those. So, yeah, it's interesting how you can take a holiday that is in the adult world, it revolves a lot around sex and romance. But then there's also this sort of like cutesy, fun, very PG, innocent side to it too. So you're
Which is
right. It's
all
kind of
valid.
yeah.
But it's just it's interesting to watch the way we can't have a holiday that's around like love and romance and sex without also
True.
having like a kids table. And I get that. Like I appreciate that like my 13-year-old, is not going to be oblivious of some sort of quote adult holiday, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to include them, but our relationship with sex and sexuality is so culturally bound. We
Mhm.
assume that it's biological, and that like our sense of shame and humility and these things are sort of innate. But just this simple list of Valentine's Day traditions to me very clearly says that the way we talk about sex, the way we talk about sex with kids, and our sort of comfort level with that is very different around the world.
No, you're
Oh yeah,
absolutely
absolutely.
right. And you talk about like this list and how all the different cultures approach the holiday or a romantic holiday because not all of them are Valentine's Day. Some occur in the summer. Um, but how different cultures approach it differently. And you do have the ones that are very much more romantic and sexual and let's enjoy this and get sensuous with it. But then you also have a lot of cultures on this list make it very innocent even for the adults, right? Like you have cultures like China that where there's couples who exchange gifts. It's not so much about like romance in the sense of oh, I like you over here, but we're not together or anything like that. It's more like, oh, if you're a couple, you exchange something. And then you have other countries that don't celebrate it at all. There's sort of like a passing in Israel. They don't celebrate Valentine's Day, but there's sort of like this passing acknowledgement that romance is a thing. And they tie it together with what they call rebirth and new beginnings, like whatever, however you want to interpret that, right? So they sort of give a barely a nod to the idea of sex and romance. So yeah, even between cultures, let alone between age groups, you have quite a variety of um, ways to acknowledge a romantic holiday or a holiday that revolves around romance and sex.
Sure. Well, which got me really curious about what homosexuality or gay relationships or gay celebrations of Valentine's might look like around the world. And in trying to Google that idea, I was just kind of gently reminded that, like, oh, okay. So, yeah, America's got some concerns, but at the very least, we acknowledge the existence of homosexuality, which is a nice thing that we try to do. There are still so many places in the world where there is certainly no opportunity for Valentines in same-sex couples and things like that. The most interesting article I could really find on that idea was just documenting the first gay marriage in a number of different nations. And I mean, America, we're just 8 years into that experiment, which is,
Mhm.
depressingly recent, but still ahead of many, many nations around the world. I guess just taking a quick moment this Valentine's to spare a thought for all of the queer folks around the world that are not able to celebrate or acknowledge that relationship.
We are very lucky to be where we are. Myself, a little bit luckier because we up here in the enlightened country of Canada had marriage equality back in 2003. And if I could briefly share a quick anecdote, I remember looking for a card to give to my partner, and they were all like clearly from a woman. Like, like there was no representation
no.
there whatsoever. But last year I actually found one that was clearly, it was, to my darling husband sort of thing. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was clearly same sex partner geared greeting card. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yes.
I
feel
actually
seen.
found one. I don't have to
Nice.
pick the least feminine one anymore. There's actually one that sort of, is more masculine and suits me a little bit better. So that was cool to see a little bit of progress, I thought. And I also liked how in some other countries it's not necessarily so weird because of the approach they take. One that I really liked was Estonia. I don't know if you guys saw Estonia, but there was Sobrapev, Friendship Day. And so it's like single folks and family and friends all exchange little small tokens of appreciation. And it seems a lot more inclusive than, us over here in North America, perhaps. And they've also got, and again, I don't know this to be true because in the comment section, there are people saying, oh, I'm from Estonia. I've never heard of this. But apparently in the article that there's a love bus. And I don't know if it's a Volkswagen van, but it's a love bus where single people get to go on, and it's sort of like a Estonian speed dating thing. That was pretty cool.
Estonian speed dating, among other things, would make an incredible progressive rock group. But I was interested in the traditions in Bulgaria, where they celebrate something, I guess, that this article is sort of saying is like Valentine's Day, in that they have Trifon Zarazin Day, which is a celebration of the grape harvest, and kind of yet another example of a like local indigenous holiday that then got renamed after a dead saint, which I just love that sainted martyrs are sort of the whitewashing over so many of our like indigenous cultures.
Yeah, absolutely. There was another one I liked that was, I can't remember the country. It escapes me. I didn't put anything down for it, but it was like, this was traditionally the day that birds got married. And so if you wanted to see it, you had to walk outside in the snow and you could see birds proposing to each other. So, they're sitting, which I thought was just absolutely adorable and really cool. Like,
that is
come on,
sweet. I like that. Yeah.
Who doesn't want to see birds proposing?
Celebrate
to
a
each
bird
other?
marriage, sure.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, some birds are monogamous, right? I think geese are monogamous.
Actually, yeah, there's several species of birds that are monogamous. What's interesting about that is not only are there birds that are monogamous, but within animal species, there's also polyamory and cheating, right? So they have monogamous bird couples where one or the other will stray. So I just think that that's interesting because all of these concepts that we think of as human concepts, you can pretty much typically find them in the animal kingdom.
We ain't nothing but mammals.
Yeah, we're not that special. That's true. Another one I liked was South Korea, because South Korea has an anti-Valentine's Day. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah, was that the one with the big group weddings, or I can't remember?
No, that was the Philippines. The Philippines has like
okay, look
the
at you having them all
government-sponsored
memorized.
mass weddings. Yeah. But no, South Korea has an anti-Valentine's Day in April, and they call it the Black Day. And people basically celebrate being single by eating noodles in a black sauce. Which I was just like, hey,
That
way
is
to fight back,
interesting.
Korea,
Yeah.
right? Not
No, I
only
like
are you
that,
including the single people, but you're actually having an event just for single people, which may end up in less single people. You never know.
It tends to work that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just thought that was really cool. Was there any other wacky Valentine's traditions that stuck in your minds before we wrap it up and move on?
Got all my big ones.
Yeah, I don't know if there were any more necessarily wacky ones. I think we kind of hit them. But one thing that I noticed was like cultures just fascinate me the way that there's overlap and that there's differences, right? So
Mm,
a lot of cultures focused on things like flowers. Several took place in the springtime and it was more about renewal and that sort of sense of romance is tied to the renewing of flowers and like it's very common to tie fertility to the springtime. And so a lot
Mm,
of different countries did
true.
that. Lots of countries with the chocolate, like you guys said, but what was really, really cool is that, there are so many different ways that countries celebrate, and we only had a small list. I'm sure that there are countries that weren't represented on this list. But it just kinda shows you that, like, we think of Valentine's Day as our holiday, and, like, other countries either don't celebrate it or those kinds of holidays might not be on their minds, but they are. Like, they call them different things, they celebrate them on different days. But things like, fertility or love or romance, that's kind of on everybody's mind. Like it was pretty typical. So it was neat to see the different ways in which um, all of our cultures do things so differently, but then there's also so much overlap and so much similarity. I thought that was
mm.
kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, just gives you a better sense of what the human animal is and wants and
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah, it's like the convergent evolution of culture instead of
Totally.
biology. It kind of works the same way. I thought that was really that was really cool to see. Was I was more interested in the wacky ones, but it is interesting to
That's
consider
because
that
you're wacky.
it is because I'm a little wacky. Maybe it is, but I think we're gonna move on